Hey, we're recording.
Uh-oh.
Oops.
Oh. Abbreviated.
You guys know what this is. Do you really need the intro? Sorry, we skipped the intro there, everybody. It's going to be that kind of show. It's a Thursday episode of Bid Nerd, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on Cars and Bids. Bring a trailer, PCAR Market, Rad for Sale, and whoever else decides they want to auction some stuff on the internet. You know, there it is. Hi, guys. My name is John Polnik. I'm your host. I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Usually my partner right over there, Michael Deeb, is coming to you from San Francisco, but he, too, is here in Las Vegas today for one day only. Okay, actually, he'll be here all week, so make sure you tip your waiters. How you doing, Michael Deeb?
Yeah, try the steak. He's so funny. So I know you had to meet with the buyer of your 996 GT3 wannabe this morning. Yeah. And we had, for the most part, just kind of said, well, we might have to shelve today's show because I want to pick this guy up from the airport, yada, yada. So you did that and expedited really quickly, and you called me at 10 o'clock, and you're like, hey, let's throw the show together. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'm like getting ready and getting dressed, basically, and my phone buzzes again. And Esther's like, what does JP want now? like getting dressed. I saw he was talking to me. And it was cousin Mark, and he's, what are you just waiting for, man? Is the show going to go live today or what? And I was like, calm down, Stalker. We are only like 40 minutes behind schedule, and you're already blowing me up. You know, it's pretty funny because we've been so consistent the last few months. Yeah. Guys like Mark are like strung out. He's like, oh, where's my show? Where's my bid nerds? It's pretty funny.
Man, so you don't get your bid nerds for the day. I love Esther. Yeah. What does JP want now? That is a telling statement.
She's like, what is he saying now? Like, you just texted him. And I was like, I guess she thought you were me like, forget it. You're not getting dressed fast enough. We'll skip it. You know?
Oh, that's funny. Oh, man. Well, hey, guys, what we do here, if you've never joined us, we nerd out on the most interesting cars on all these automotive auction sites, and we make predictions to what we think they're going to sell for. We talk about why we think these cars are interesting, and a lot of times it's cars that you think are interesting. Tell us what cars you want us to review in the future. We love audience participation in this show. We typically pick a bunch of rando cars that kind of speak to us, and we have a good time with them. Man, I can't speak this morning. We're a way late start. We had a bunch of other stuff going on this morning. Yeah. This is the kind of nerd you're going to get today. I'm just now getting to my first coffee. We do a morning show. Yeah.
No coffee, no vitamins. And if we're not caffeinated before the show goes live, we are a mess. Tomorrow, JP, Friday the 26th, we have a 1958 Abarth that our former boss Gary Ackerman sent to me as an interesting car. So we will be reviewing a car from one of our, the god of all bid nerds, Gary Ackerman, who has a very cool collection of cars.
All right, that'll be interesting.
He sent that to us, so we'll cover that, and then we'll send him the link to the show and we'll force him to watch it. So
love it.
We were pandering to our old host, so
love it. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna get through it quickly today. One of the things that we do is we go over our predictions from the previous day. Whenever we start the show, we always talk about what we thought yesterday was gonna happen. And sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. Usually we're wrong. We do like to stress that we don't know what we're talking about, so don't take our advice, especially when it comes to financial matters. But do hang out and nerd out with us. What cars did we talk about yesterday, Michael Deeb? What were our predictions?
So I'm gonna make an excuse for you. You know, you had people and
was it that bad?
And people come and pick up your car. Oh yeah, you were clearly distracted yesterday when we did the show. Our star car was, what was our star car?
Our car of the day was the
SC? Yeah, it was the SC.
Sure.
1983.
No, it was a Ferrari. It was a 360. It was a 360.
Oh, it was a 360. Okay, so it was. Oh, this was a cool one, JP. 2004 Ferrari 360 Spider with a manual gearbox. And what makes this car even more special is it actually has really low miles. I will say, you know, some of the things that you apply to those early Boxsters and early 996s, you tend to tell the audience the cars with more miles are better cars, and the ones with low miles might be scary. And that applies to almost every Ferrari. Ferrari drivers brag about not driving their cars. My car's only got 1,200 miles on it, and somebody else will speak up and go, my car's only got 800 miles. And in a
Buffet.
Ferrari circle, and in a Ferrari circle, that somehow makes you more cool. But in a Porsche circle, that makes you kind of a geek, because why wouldn't you drive the car? If you own that and it was in your garage, you'd want to go out and wail on it. In any case, this car is going to be more valuable because it's got super low miles, 16,000 miles, JP, barely broken in for a car that is essentially 17 years old now. It's really interesting. But the manual gearbox makes it, and we're over these 360s because they're the last car with the timing belts, but by all accounts, this is timing belt that you don't have to drop the motor to access and change, meaning when you change the timing belt, the service is probably $1,000 or $2,000, not $7,000 to $10,000. And that really does help the value of these cars in the secondary market. 430s, which came after these cars, their values are skyrocketing. So these are the last, really cool driver's cars that don't cost an arm and a leg, something you afford to buy and still afford to drive.
So where did it land?
I said this car was going to break 116,000. You got ethered up and bid 118. Our car sold for $115,000. We were really bull all over it, but I was a little closer. Yeah.
I'm surprised by that. I thought that would, what a great car for that money. Holy cow.
$115,000 for less than 20,000 miles on a manual gearbox and a challenge grille. That's a great car.
Yeah. All right. I really like that colorway. I really like
silver
the silver
with
red. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, silver red. That is eye-catching and not common in Ferrari circles.
Yep.
On Cars and Bids yesterday, they had a really cool air-cooled, a 1983 Porsche 911 SC Coupe, about 100,000 original miles. There were some unusual mods which suggest that this motor has been opened up and they changed the cams. But Rubino Rot Metallic is dear to my heart. That's the color of my 84 Carrera. And so I thought this would be a neat one to cover because Doug DeMuro doesn't do a lot of air-cooled era Porsche, especially a G-body. I can't remember last time we saw a cool G-body on Cars and Bids. And we were really close, JP. I said 40 grand. You bet the under at 39, and this car sold for 37,350. Now, I remember it was out of Florida, and they had the red painted fan that suggested that Motormeisters or Meister Motor or whatever might have been the guy that rebuilt this engine. And so we wonder if that 37,000 is reflective of the general public suspicion or the lack of Porsche enthusiasts on Cars and Bids. So interesting to speculate on how to decipher that result. But we were both correct in assuming that this car would have done better, 45 or more maybe on Bring a Trailer, or they would have flushed out Motormeister and it would have brought the same money on BAT with a more educated audience. I don't know. Yeah. But there you go.
That seems like, because if the engine is okay, that is a pretty darn good value for an SC Coupe nowadays. Yeah.
Right. Nice. So JP, that was your bright spot for the day. We jumped over to PCAR and looked at the 2001 Mercedes-Benz Clk 55 AMG. Again, with about 100,000 miles, again out of Miami. I said 7,000. You kind of poo-pooed it for being so far down in Miami. And 100,000 miles means that, look, there's still some life left in that car. Actually, it was a little less than that. I think it had like 70,000 miles. Yeah. But these cars are really, really soft. And you kind of bet the platform on this. So you said 5,500. Well, the car sold for $7,500. I was actually pretty close, 500 off the Yahtzee. And I recorded yet another win. Nice. And then our final... Oh, we skipped over one. Sorry, JP. 1966 Mercedes-Benz 230 SL. The name is the GO. I still don't know why the GO to nickname attached car. I'll have to look it up and report on the next one we do. But by and large, this was a family-owned car for the last 45 years and kind of an unusual colorway in gray with sort of darker gray blue leather interior. 4-speed manual, inline six. When you talk about JP selling the romanticism, photos of this car in the front yard with the leaves on the ground, it really just screams like, your second car up your grandpa's old country home or something, and a car you would drive once a month in the summer or something. I don't know. It's just a neat little car. They're not performance cars, but they were pretty ahead of their time in their day. So anyways, interesting
to cruise around the Hamptons or the Catskills or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Or the wine country in Northern California. Maybe get to the lake in the Washington or something.
Deeb, what's more classy, driving this around or like a brand new Rolls Royce Spur or something just ostentatious, right?
No, see what's happened. Like I agree with you, JP. The new Rolls, new Bentleys, they are also the objects of desire of the young American jackass that has way too much money and not enough thing. Same guy might be buying a G squared, whereas this car, it really an edge of savoir-faire, a little class and sophistication to have the gumption to rock a car like that. And I just think that's way classier to me. And that's my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. How much did this sell for?
So I said 69, you said 70, and this car undersold, JP. It sold for 56,500.
Wow.
So it's a pretty screaming deal for under 60 grand. I know they were soft. These were, pushing $100,000 and bringing a little more for the restored ones. But look at that photo. I mean, this car did not bring the money.
We want to move on to the next cars, but just last week we talked about, what was it, a 2001 SL 500 Mercedes in burgundy on tan that had low miles on it, and that car went for $45,000. The idea that car over this car, I mean, certainly the 2001... What is it, a W129 or something? The other nerds can correct me on that one. Certainly a better driver car, but not nearly as classy as this. If you have the choice of one or the other, it's this 10-1. I mean, this looks like a. This just looks like a. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily look like a $500,000 car, but it could be, right? It just has the air about it. It just makes you go.
Even in that photo, it looks like it could be a Polo Ralph Lauren ad. Some redheaded chick with some $2,000 wool coat, and you're like, oh wow, that's hot. I don't know, man. You get to drive this car too. It's a manual. It'd be a fun car to drive. It's again not going to handle, but it'll be fun to row it down to go get wine or whatever for dinner. I don't know. It'd be a neat car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it. All right.
Our last car, JP, was an absolute hoot. We looked at this 1982 Mercury LN7 with the Hemi engine, a 1.6 liter hemispherical inline four with a 3-speed automatic. Our car, JP, remind me, it had like 10,000 miles or 16,000 miles on it. It was like basically brand new. This car had a $10,000 MSRP, and it had one bid at $10,000 when we reviewed it. So I just put my foot out and said, there's no way this car's getting another bid. Your next increment possible mathematically was 10,100 because you do $100 increments on BAT. Anyway, that car did not get another bid. It sold for $10,000. So that was just a really weird lot that it only got one bid and sold for MSRP, a car that had no business bringing MSRP, even in this stellar condition. So something fishy with that. That looked like
you brought it up yesterday that was kind of like someone going, all right, that was a friend putting in a bid to guard it, to make sure that it didn't get sold underneath, because they didn't give him a what do you call it, a reserve that was very high on this car. So
no, not at all. It's just weird. Anyway, good luck. If that's a real transaction, congratulations to everybody involved. That's all the money for one of those things. You set the record for Mercuries in this century. So there you go.
There's certain cars that I don't care how rare it is. I don't care how many are left. I don't care what the condition is. You can only get so expensive. I mean, this is an LN7 Mercury, the nicest one on the planet, which this one might be, apparently is worth $10,000. And I don't really even believe that, but okay. Whatever.
I really want those little phone dial wheels and then
a little force.
It'd be funny. If
I wonder what the bolt pattern on that. If it's like 4x100 or whatever, would that fit on an old 924 with four?
That'd be amazing. It'd be really funny.
Right next to a 944 with five hole.
Or could you put them on a Gia? Wouldn't that be hilarious? A Gia with phone dials?
Oh my gosh, with 4-hole phone dials. That's awesome.
Yeah. Or you go to Carson Coffee in your 928 with proper phone dials. And you open up the rear hatch, and there's a baby phone dial in there. It looks like it's a gag gift, for Porsche guys to be like, "Oh, that's hilarious." So,
see, if you're watching the show going, "Why would that be hilarious?" That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're not a nerd. I mean, there it is. This is a show for nerds. We are the Bid Nerds. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We're still cruising along here. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification button, hit all the buttons. You got to do that. You got to do that. That's how we know to keep making nerd shows. The Bid Nerds are here for you, so do all that subscribe stuff. And again, let us know what cars you want us to talk about. We just got done reviewing our cars from yesterday. Apparently, I did a horrible job, but at least I wasn't completely blown out. I mean, at least I had one. I got one. So
and you got it right, too.
And I got it right on. All right. And then I was mathematically eliminated from the last one. I mean, there was no way. The LN7. So it was kind of cheating. It was almost like it was just okay. So
the one time there's a privilege in going first. I was like, you and I both knew that car was going nowhere. After that knockout
nowhere
punch.
fast.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the cars today. The auction hammer is going to be hitting the sound block soon on many of these cars, and some of them might be happening right now.
Yeah,
since we got a little bit of a late start. Let's. What cars are we talking about today? What are the most interesting cars of the day on all of the auction sites right now? What do we got?
Did Antonio pick us a star car? Should we just start? With the Renault?
Oh, you know what? No, we're going to start with the Audi Quattro is our car of the day. That's the big one. But if you want to go to the Renault first, because it's closing, that's fine. Let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. All right. So Cars and Bids had a car that was never brought to the United States. Renault, the French car manufacturer, made a rear-engine car in the 60s called an Alpine. Now, JP, these cars were rally specials. They were little homologation specials. Rear engine, usually about 1.3 or 1.6 liter motors, 5-speed manuals, rear wheel drives, and these cars did really well. Like if you couldn't afford to be a factory driver for the big manufacturers, you could pick up a Renault Alpine, and with just a few modifications, you could be racing and had the chance to be competitive if you were a good enough driver. Well, in the late 80s and early 90s, Renault decided to revive the Alpine name, and they made this car called the GTA Turbo. And let me read you the specs because I don't know the car very well. I just know what they made. Its power comes from a 2.5-liter turbocharged intercooled V6 that made about 200 horsepower and about 220 pound-foot of torque. And that was, rear-wheel drive with a 5-speed manual. And Renault's factory racing colors was always sort of that French metallic blue. Even on those 60s cars, they rocked this sort of beautiful royal blue metallic. And so this colorway is absolutely a homage to those glory days of Renault racing in rallies around the world. Somebody brought this car into the United States. It's offered out of Dallas, Texas, and shows just 17,400 miles. JP, I would have to tell you, this is pure unobtainium. I've never in my life seen one of these cars in person. And it has a very striking stance to it with that sort of pointy front end with no grille and that kind of rear hatchback. To me, it looks very 80s. It doesn't look like a very 90s car. It looks like a very 80s car. But there you go. Offered out of Dallas, Texas. The car received 17 bids. It was bid up to $16,500. This lot, unfortunately, closed just a few minutes ago when you and I were just tuning in and greeting everybody. It ended at about 10:30. So this car is going to wind up for sale somewhere else because it did not sell at that price. But have you ever heard of this car? Have you ever seen one? What do you think of that? Is it?
I'm not entirely convinced that it's not this car. I'm pretty sure we saw this in in RoboCop. I'm pretty sure this must be the 6000 SUX.
Awesome. Good for you. There you go.
What a weird looking car, and I appreciate that about it. I don't hate it. Is it something I want? No way. But is it something that would be kind of cool to have? Absolutely. I mean, this is the kind of car that if you are that eccentric collector and you've got everything else, you've got the Ferrari F40, you've got the the Gullwing Mercedes, you've got all the crazy stuff, all the expensive stuff that everyone else has, and you want to be the guy that shows up to a Cars and Coffee with something that nobody has. This is the kind of car that you need to have, and that's really what you want this for.
Bear in mind, JP, too, it's mid-engine, and I needed to confirm that with the photos. I didn't get to do my research. It's mid-engine. So, again, this was Renault's, sort of shot at like a 911. I mean, think V6, 200 horsepower, 1992, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission. I mean, they're absolutely going for that sort of luxury sports car that you can drive every day, but still be a great car on the back road. I mean, they took a shot. They took a swing with this car. It did not work. They sold it for a couple of years, but even in Europe, this was not a success. So
what did it actually sell for? Or it got bid up to $16,500. What do you think this should have been? What's the value of this thing?
I mean,
knows,
there's no book on it, but I mean, just looking at it in that condition with 17,000 miles, I would have to think it's a $40,000 to $50,000 car. Plus, somebody had to spend, JP, almost $10,000 to get it in here to the country.
Well, here's another way to look at it too. I just talked about that guy that has the warehouse full of all the things that no one else has. There's another way you could be that guy that doesn't have the money for a warehouse full of all those things, but you just want that one thing that no one else has. I was once invited to a men's weekend on an island in Washington, up in there in the San Juans. A guy we knew who was a friend of a friend owned an entire island, and he wanted us So this was a private island, so we all got in the boat, and the big thing was we're going to spend the weekend, we're going to smoke cigars, we're going to drink liquor, we're going to grill steaks, and the thing was bring a bottle that no one else has, right? So it was an annual thing. So everyone's bringing all these, Louis and all this crazy expensive stuff, and I'm like, I'm not in these guys' category. There's no way I can compete. So what I found was a rare bottle of Ed Hardy vodka. It was like a numbered edition of like the lamest vodka you could possibly get, and it had all the bedazzled. So the bottle was just hilarious, right? And maybe it cost a couple $100 or whatever, but compared to what everyone else was bringing, it was just. But it was like, boom! I don't care. You over there with your Ferrari F40, you over there with your Gullwing. Nobody cares because everyone's going to come and look at this car, and that's pretty cool. Sorry, pointing the wrong way.
We were talking about that, having that car that everybody would walk around to go see, and this is definitely one of those cars, especially in the United States. I mean, this is a real gray market gem.
There's the takeaway. A 1992 Renault is the Ed Hardy of cars. Okay, moving on.
There you go. Ed Hardy vodka of cars. Yes.
That's correct.
All right, JP, P-Car Market has my favorite car of the week so far. I have a soft spot in my heart for Audis. So my very first car was a Fiat 124 Sport Coupe, and I drove it for a couple of years. I did actually have a car accident in that car and destroyed that car. And two others. That was a low point in my early development. But my very next car was an 86 Audi Quattro. And when you normally aspirated 5-cylinder Audi Quattro that makes like 100 horsepower, this comes land because this is that car with 2 less doors and a turbocharger. And this is, again, one of those sort of homologation specials. This was the car that helped Audi go Group B racing. And I don't know that these cars were ever sold legally on our shores. Maybe they were. I think this might be a U.S. version. But offered out of Lebanon, New Jersey, JP, is a 1983 Audi Ur Quattro with just 14,000 miles on the odometer.
Wow.
This is an absolute preservation car. And the spec on this is really cool. So obviously it employs Audi's patented Quattro all-wheel drive system. It has a 5-speed manual transmission. Those are 15-inch alloy wheels, Renault wheels, which again, you're like, well, it's a big deal. In 1983, it was a big deal to have 15-inch wheels.
R9s were dope. You had to have your R9s. Come on, man.
Really cool car. Now, again, in European form, I think these cars made like 240 horsepower, but in U.S. spec, in order to get them into the United States, they probably choked the exhaust out of these things to burn clean. I think this car makes 160 horsepower. But I also imagine it'd be really easy to uncork the monster that lies in there. I'm sure with a few mods and a little bit of tuning, you could probably get this thing up to about 250 horsepower without having to open the engine per se. And that would make it really neat. I also love the colorway, JP. This is sort of a dark blue, like a midnight blue metallic. And if you look really closely, that is actually a chocolate-colored leather interior. The entire leather is this really, really dark brown. And those seats are actually kind of cool. I love the empty headrest. Does that not remind you of the 80s when you see the headrest that's hollow in the middle, but it will prevent you from having a bad neck injury? I just think this is a really cool car. And one of these days, one of these things is going to shoot through the roof. I'm surprised that a Ur Quattro hasn't sold for $100,000 yet. E30 M3s with the similar looking boxed cut fenders are bringing that kind of money. Mercedes-Benz 190 Evo 2s and Evo 1s are bringing $100,000 and $300,000 respectively. So when is the Ur Quattro going to shoot through the moon? This car, I suspected, would have brought $65,000 on BAT. I don't think it's going to bring it here. With an hour and a half to go out of New Jersey, JP, our car sitting at just $37,000. So I think it might go past 40, maybe $45,000, but I think this car would have brought $65,000 to $80,000 on BAT in this condition. I think this is absolutely the wrong platform for this car. You're trying to sell an Audi to Porsche guys. Most Porsche guys, like yourself, poo-poo Audis. But bring a trailer would have just like absolutely lost their mind over this car in this condition. So tell me what you think. You ever driven one of these things?
I've never driven the Quattro coupe. I've driven lots of Quattros of the era, and for the record, as a Porsche guy who hates Audis, I love this era of Audi. I love early Audis.
I finally found one that you like.
This is the Audi that I absolutely love. I mean, let's face it. I grew up on Scirocco's, and this looks like a Scirocco with a Zender body kit. I mean, it's just got those. I mean, my first Scirocco was an '82 Scirocco that had the R9 wheels. It had the same dang wheels. There's so many angles and lines on this car that really do look like a Scirocco. And I remember being young. That was one of the first times really kind of like going, all right, how much stuff do these manufacturers share? And I parked my Scirocco next to a coupe, and the door handles were the same. A lot of the switch gear was the same, but these are certainly not the same as a Scirocco. Make no mistake, the engine is inline. Obviously, it's a Quattro. I did own one of these later. I did get but it was just a two-wheel drive. It was just a front-wheel drive one, and it was a coupe. It was red on black, and that was a fantastic car. The
one they sold a lot of in the United States basically looks like that car was called the Audi GT, and it had the 5-cylinder motor, button turbo, and no box cut there. So it was just sort of slab side, if that makes any sense, like a narrow body 911. And they sold tons of those in this country. But that car, despite having, let's say, 10 more horsepower and 15-pound of torque more than a Scirocco, was that much more heavy than a Scirocco, that the Scirocco, say a Scirocco 16 valve, the last iteration of it, would humiliate an Audi GT on a back road, especially being a front-wheel drive. Even if it's wet out, it would just leave the Audi because the Audi's kind of a pig. But this car has firmer suspension and then this motor with the turbocharged. And this was a real sports car. It was a neat little car. Softly sprung for a 911 guy, but you could work on that and make this a cool car.
Yeah. So where's it going to land? What's it going to do on
I'm going to say
PCAR
JP,
market?
So we're doing this live without a net, JP. I'm just going to go, and this is a heartfelt bid. I'm going to say 45,000 because I want it to sell for 45,000. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it'll wind up in the deal tank, and then I can make an offer on it later. I would love to own this car, JP. If I was in a position, I would grab this thing. I've always wanted one. It's like one of those dream cars. I love it. What do you think?
That would look really, really good next to your Cosworth 190. Let me tell you, that would be just one awesome garage.
And Ruby. Imagine they're all metallic colors. That'd be a really cool collection of cars. All German 80s Radwood era. Like that'd be a cool little collection
with those boxy lines and everything like that, and little extra bit of fenders.
I'm getting anxious.
You stole my bid. I don't know to go over and under. How much time we got on this thing?
An hour and a half on PCAR.
PCAR market, it is PCAR market, and man, they are hit and miss. You just never know what's going to happen on that platform. So I got to go under. Wait, where is this car? Where is it?
Lebanon, New Jersey.
You know what? Since I didn't throw a number out there, I'm going to go over. I'm going to say 46. I think the secret sauce to PCAR market is the car has to be in their backyard. If it's a car that's in that tri-state area, they'll get all the money for it. If it's anywhere else, forget it. If you dress this car up to look like a Ferrari and put Ferrari badges all over it or something like that and try to make it look like a Daytona, it would get $80,000, no problem, because it'd be PCAR. And somebody in Long Island wants fake
Ferraris.
Watch one of our older shows. You can a couple weeks ago we talked about their fake 280Z Ferrari that they got $50,000 for. Good on PCAR market for bringing the money on that stupid thing. All right, so let's move on to the next car. That was a really cool Quattro.
JP, I absolutely picked this car for you and every one of our guests from last week. Out of San Rafael, California, once again, the Bay Area is an automotive hotbed for interesting cars. This is a 2011. I don't know what it mean. It was made in 11. Is it built on an 11? I didn't get to do my homework, but they call this 2011 Local Motors Rally Fighter out of San Rafael, California. 10,000 miles on this thing. It uses a 6.2-liter GM V8 with a 4-speed GM automatic transmission. It has a Ford 8.8-inch rear engine, wrapped in two-tone grain with red accents. Let's see what else. Brakes, Fox shucks, LED light bar. It's party. I don't know what this is built on because I didn't get to do my homework. I honestly thought we were going to miss the show today. But take a look at this thing. Is that not like one of the crazier builds you've seen for a rally car? I mean, clearly it looks like it could do both rally, and it looks like it has the kind of ground clearance that would do that sort of trail going over rocks. And like, I mean, like, this is sort of your do everything off-road vehicle, unless I'm missing something obvious. JP, what do you think of this thing? I imagine with a big, huge V8 that makes 400 horsepower, that it's really, you get out on the desert out here in our backyard and you could do 100 miles an hour across a dry lake. I mean, look at that thing, huh?
This is absurd. I don't know what to think of it. I mean, it's LS the world here. We've got full roll cage. We've got integrated brush guards and, steel tube frame stuff going on that just makes this thing probably super rich. I mean, this looks like a Baja 1000. I don't know what class this would be in. Is that an automatic? It is. Are we looking at an automatic in here?
It's a GM V8, a GM 4-speed automatic. I don't understand.
So is that not even? It's not even an LS. It's just a Chevy V8 of an earlier generation.
It doesn't say LS. It says 6.2 liter V8. I'll read it again. You keep talking.
Yeah, I mean, this car. I mean, if you're not seeing
no,
the
it's
pictures,
an LS3. Sorry.
Okay, it is an LS3. Yeah, there's no way to describe this car. It kind of looks like one of those Isuzu. What do they call those? Via Cross. Yeah. But like that just got jacked up on all kinds of illegal stimulants and steroids, and I mean, it's just an absurd looking car in every way, which kind of makes me like it. Does that middle come off? Is that a Target? No, it doesn't look like it's Target.
I don't think so.
It's actually got seats in the back, which why bother? Who the hell would want to sit back there?
Look at all the frame bracing and rigidity.
Yeah, switch gear.
It's really meant to handle all the dirt and all the speed that you're going to throw at this thing. But I just think for out here, JP, blasting across a dry lake, that would be absolutely fun. And I imagine you could probably drift to 80-mile-an-hour drift circles, that are quarter-mile wide. Like, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. The thing that surprises me is it doesn't look like it has that much articulation to be able to run really hard. Yeah, I mean, there's some clearance. There's quite a bit of clearance.
There's some clearance.
This is just a weird video. I would love to see it actually get used, like hard
at
used
speed.
Here. This video isn't very good. Look at that, the short pipes. It's got to be loud as hell. This is a purpose-built monster. I love it. I don't know what it's worth, but what do you think it's going to land? Yeah.
Right? So believe it or not, it has a California DMV issued VIN tag. These replacement tags are riveted on by somebody at the DMV, usually when a tag goes missing, like a theft recovery, so to speak. But it's not a month that's high, so I don't know what the story is to be for registering it in your state. But if you could afford to just have a car as a toy, boy, you'd be hard pressed to do better than this for the money. We're talking $35,000 at the moment with 9 minutes to go out of San Rafael, California, JP. I think somebody's going to pay $40,000 for this thing. I'm just going to go out there and say, where do you get anything else like it? So I'm going to say that it's going to have a little late fee and it's going to bring $40,000. Where are you at?
There's a lot of cool here, and I'm with you. There's not much that you can get that's as purpose-built and ready to go. I mean, we're seeing how many Cayennes are people putting big tires on and jacking them up and everything. And, myself included, I'm into that. That's cool. But this car is the real deal. As much as I'd love that people are doing it with the Porsche SUVs, this one seems like it could actually live up to the craziness. But
it's got to be lighter than your E1 turbo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If this had a manual, I mean, come on, this would be the greatest off-road, just monster road warrior type thing ever. But without that, with the automatic, that really hurts it. What was your bid? You said 45?
I said 40. I went high. I said 40.
You said 40. It's at 34.9 right now. Yeah, I'll go 39. Yep. I'm going to go under on that one. There you go. Who the hell knows? I mean, I've never seen one. Don't know if we'll ever see one again. I'd sure love to see it in person. I'd love to drive it. So if you buy this car, reach out to Bid Nerds. Let us know. We'll come out and we'll do a film about it. I want to shoot a video of this thing. That would be so much fun. We're going to throw a drone up for you.
We'll throw a drone up for you.
All right, what's next?
Okay, so this next bid, we're going to go back over to Bring a Trailer and look at a car. And I'm going to confess, this bid is just a setup for a car we're going to look at next week. So what we have here is a 1984 Porsche 928 5-speed. A car is offered out of Phoenix, Arizona with 71,000 miles, which is fair, like just totally fair. This car is painted in Rubino Rot Metallic with beige interior and a dark brown dashboard. The most important thing to notice here is the car's got 70,000 miles and a 5-speed manual transaxle. And our car has about 3 hours to go. No nonsense, just 3 hours to go. And it's just under $9,000. So by all accounts, you and I are going to bring bids in between, say, $10,000 and $15,000. But right before I left Godden, I covered a car. I found a car at Tony Mazzagatti's shop. One of his clients had sort of given up on a car, and they left it at Tony's shop. It had been sitting there for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And it was this exact same car, a 1984 928S, with just 7,000 miles and an automatic transmission. So I bought the car from Tony Mazzagatti, well, basically from Tony's clients, and we went about refurbishing it. It needed more than a major service because it had been sitting for so long, and got the car running. But I left Godden before the car came to the front line, and Godden undersold that car. And the new owner is trying to sell it on one of these auction platforms, and you and I will try to cover that car next week, because I think that guy's going to get the money I would have gotten for it if I had stayed at Godden. So this car is like a stone in my shoe. So I'm curious to see, as a baseline, what a manual with miles will bring, and then show you what a basically sub 10,000 mile 928S can bring, even with an automatic transmission. So this car looks really nice. Probably a plain driver, very nice condition for the miles. It looks very clean, and the services and things are up to date. So, you know, you and I talk about how fun a 928 would be to own, but I suspect you and I would really have to be convinced we found one that is in decent condition mechanically, because these could be a total money pit. As much as I love Porsches and I'm kind of a fearless car buyer, these platforms kind of scare me. Tell me I'm being a wimp that you would not hesitate to buy a 928 if you found the right one.
I mean, yeah, if I found the right one, but this ain't it. Tony Mazzagatti over at 900 Series. Check out their show. They actually have a show. I believe it's on Amazon and a couple other places. But, you know, we're really good friends with those guys over there, and they always talk about 928s and, you know, how many kids have gone through college by repairing these darn things. They are problematic, to say the least. And if you're going to get one, it's got to be a manual. Got to be a manual. Got to be a manual. Yeah. The automatics are absolutely... Oh, God, they're going to cause you problems. This is a neat car. Yeah, and I'm with you on the numbers there. Where do you think it's going to land?
It's a good guess, JP. Bring a Trailer should bring all the money, and this car looks really nice. So, you know, by all accounts, JP, this could be close to a $20,000 car, but it's just not an inspiring look. I don't know. I want to like it more, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to say $14,000, but I would kind of qualify that as saying, if this car was black on black, 21 grand would be my guess, you know. Yeah. But I'm going to say in this colorway, 14,000.
Where is it, and how many miles?
Phoenix, again? Arizona. Phoenix, Arizona, 71,080.
Yeah, you know, it's too bad that, once again, awful photos on a car that could really look great. This car has so much potential. I mean, it's a little bit of a bummer. It's got a crack in the dashboard, but everything else looks pretty decent. You know, an awful driving video. I mean, come on, guys. What did you guys see? I showed that just a little while ago. Basically, the camera's on the guy's beer gut, and he's rowing through the gears with his hand staying on the gear shift lever, and, you know, one hand on the steering wheel. It's just the worst kind. It just makes you go, well, God, if the guy doesn't know how to drive it, he doesn't know how to take care of it. He clearly can't take pictures of it or respect it enough to hire somebody that knows how to take pictures of it for him. Everything's wrong about this, but I do think it's going to bring more. I am going to say 15 and say, yeah, I'm with you. It could go to 20.
It should.
It should, because it is a manual with fairly decent miles, and it's a 928. These are... coming up, and they're fun.
That paint in the shadows of the golden hour looks gorgeous. I own a car in that color. It's a beautiful colorway. But in the bright sun of Phoenix, Arizona, it has a lot of gold in it.
Do we buy this thing if it's that cheap? Do we just go buy this thing and go down and pick it up and bring it back? Are we crazy?
Under 12, we could. Yeah.
Under
12, we could. Right. It closes in a couple hours. JP, 2.5 hours.
All right. Yeah, road trip to Phoenix. All right, in Rubino.
We could do
that. Do we take Rubino, or do we take the turbo? Okay, all right, there we go. All right, what's the last car today? We're moving along. We're having
all right. As is the case, JP, we saved the candy for last. Calverton, New York, is offering us this 2001 Toyota MR2 Spider with a 5-speed manual, just 61,000 miles on this car, 1.8-liter inline-4 with a 5-speed, tan leather interior, 15-inch alloys. It's got a CD player, air conditioning. I always loved MR2s. I never, ever saw the appeal of this particular car. It does scream JDM, like it looks like it could be going forwards or backwards. And this reminds me of cars from the 80s in Japan. You know, they made a lot of microcars that we never saw in the United States. So this looks like something that you would find on the streets of Tokyo and doesn't normally belong in the United States. But Toyota did sell a boatload of these things or more, and you know, they were commercially viable. But I never wanted one of these. The mid-engine one, you know, JP from the 90s with the turbo, that was the car that I thought was pretty cool. But even I've told you on this show, I don't really want to own one. I wanted one when I was a kid, but I don't want one now. This car I didn't want then, and I don't want now. I don't like it, and a tan top is terrible. But could this be Radwood? Would they making these in the late 90s? Is this a continuation?
No. This is decidedly 2000. This is definitely a millennial car.
That's crazy. All right, well there you go, JP. I mean this is the car that killed the MR2 brand in the United States. So that's my turd on it for the day. There you go.
Yeah, I mean they really are great cars, but what a miss. It came up in a time where sports cars were just kind of having trouble. That early aughts, just SUVs were everything. Nobody wanted this car when this thing came out. I rented one once. I went to LA and they gave me the option to rent this, and you know, I which was just a total mistake because I needed to drive someone around all week. And there's no room. There's two trunks. There's a front trunk and a rear trunk. So I thought like my stupid carry-on from the airplane would fit in this, and it didn't. So my passenger had to have the car, you know, in his lap the whole time. It was just so stupid. But I will say that as goofy looking as this thing is, it is a micro Boxster, and it is every bit as fun, if not better than a Boxster of its contemporary. These are so much fun to drive, to rip down Sunset Boulevard at night. You just don't want to really be seen in it. Here's one take for you. Everyone talks about how if you want to get a track car, you go get a Miata because they're cheap and easy, and you know, parts are available and all that stuff. Honestly, for my money, it's this car. This is the car you get as a track car. Oh my God, it's a mid-engine, has as much or more power. You can really make this thing rip on the track. This would be so much fun with a quick set of coilovers and a little roll bar loop, and this will just destroy Miatas. Now, it's not going to, you know, you usually say, oh, get an S2000, but an S2000 really doesn't pair up because S2000s are twice as much as Miatas usually. These cars are only 10 grand, and so less sometimes. So gosh, what a great value. A lot more car than a Miata.
Culturally, JP, though, I think you hit it on the nose with this car. In the early 2000s, when the American appetite for vehicles grew to SUVs, the Toyota MR2 actually got smaller. And I would say that, you know, if you weren't a student or in need of you know, something you could park in the smallest or tightest of parking spaces, you know, by and large, this as a sports car alternative, you must have felt vulnerable when everybody else around you was driving suburban Escalades and like that. And
Hummer H2s were all the rage in the early 2000s.
So I wonder, you remember how 300Z became a bigger sports car? The Toyota Supra became a bigger sports car. If the Toyota MR2 had grown from its previous itineration into an even larger grand touring sort of baby or Japanese Ferrari, if it wouldn't have been a commercial success. Even if it looked like this, it would have been a true Boxster alternative if it had been just a little bit bigger. And I'm not saying that I'm not knocking the Japanese microcar, but commercially that I think held it back, and this one it died off. You know?
They were going after Miata. They weren't going after 300Z, you know, and that was a miss on their part. I think you're right that the MR2, especially when you look at the MR2, the previous MR2 Turbo, that thing was just like the best Ferrari, the cheapest Ferrari you could get. It was so fantastic with the T-tops, and I mean that was where it was at. But this car, Definitely millennial styling. I got to say, I've seen a few of them that the kids have done up when you drop one of these and put the right wheels on it, that boxiness of it. They're definitely not smaller than the previous MR2. But I think...
Oh, really?
But compared to cars of their era, everything got... You're absolutely right. Everything got really big. So I don't know.
Everything else got big around it, so it's perspective. You're right.
Yeah. It's just like when you park a 993 next to a 991. It's like the 993, or for that matter, you park a 993 next to a current Boxster, and the 993 looks, microscopic.
Small.
So
totally.
Yeah.
Cars have gotten way longer.
Where's it at? Where's it going to end? Yeah.
All right, JP. So with an hour and 15 minutes to go out of Calverton, New York, just 61,000 miles. It's a manual transmission, sitting at $10,750. On 12 bids. And JP, my guess, I kind of believe in this car. I'm going to say $15,000.
Whoa. Okay. That's, spring is in the air, right?
We haven't seen one, and it's convertible season. Let's go. 15 grand.
What's the weather doing there in the East Coast right now? If it's sunny out, I say this car has a chance to reach that. If it isn't, I think maybe 13. That's where I'm going to be at. I just don't think these are worth that much. But this is low miles. This car is just broken in. It's a Toyota. Drive it forever. Again, it's a great alternative to a Miata. I would not be totally embarrassed to drive this car. I would definitely change up the wheels a little bit and, give it a little bit of a stance, but you could, I don't get me wrong. It's not a car that I want to necessarily be seen, but I wouldn't, in a Miata, I'd just be like, no, I can't get in a Miata. I just can't do it. But this car, it's weird enough that people will be like, what is that thing? And that's kind of fun in and of itself. So there it is, guys. That's the cars of the day, the most interesting cars of the day, actually, on Cars and Bids. Bring a Trailer, PCAR Market. We didn't talk about anything on Rad for Sale, but I'm sure they got some cool stuff coming up. So we'll be talking about them next week. We do have one more show for the week coming up tomorrow. We do this every Monday through Friday at about the 9 o'clock hour. Yes, we did get a late start today. We do apologize for that, but we got it out. The show is now just about in the can. Thank you for joining us. Come back tomorrow. Michael Deeb, anything you want to say before we sign out?
No, that was good, man. We pulled it together. And JP, you owe me one more pick for tomorrow. So pick one more car.
Oh, I owe you a pick for tomorrow.
Yeah, we only got 4 cars teed up. So grab one more, and then we'll.
Should we go drive again this afternoon? How great was that drive to Overton yesterday? For those of for everybody that came out yesterday, we had a great time.
Saturday, you and I should broadcast on Saturday. Let's.
Are we going to do the?
Death Valley, that'd be fun.
Death Valley with the Porsche Club, with the PCA here in Las Vegas is going to Death Valley. So we're going to fire up the old air-cooled cars and head on out. If you're in the Las Vegas area, join us. It's going to be a good day. And you can come out and meet the bid nerds. Also, don't forget, this Sunday is Cars und Cafe in downtown Las Vegas. That is correct. So definitely come and check that out. There it is. That's this Sunday. All right, we're going to close this show up. Thanks for joining us, guys. See you tomorrow.